Dr. Kemi for Kemi Talks Live. So part two for the IPOB. This is the part I really want you to focus on. Now, while I was in Port Harcourt prison, I met the IPOB boys. That's what they call them. Everybody has a name in the prison. Okay, Aboki boys, IPOB boys, and all that. Now, on the 2016 rally day, you remember very well, during that rally, the Nigerian police and the Nigerian army arrested a lot of protesters. They also killed a lot of protesters. A lot of protesters lost their lives on that day. Women, men, a lot of people were brought into Port Harcourt prison. Now, during that time, okay, there were protests in Port Harcourt, there were protests in Onitsha, there were protests in Owerri. They rounded up everyone they arrested and they brought them to Port Harcourt to the maximum prison. A lot of them were young men, 18 to 25. There were older ones too. Mama Biafra was on our side. She was an elderly woman that went to, everybody came to prison. So I studied everything and I told you that the prison is a newsroom, a very big one. You don't jail a journalist. They'll just make the whole place a newsroom and get stories upon stories. And I've already told you in the previous video, all this book, but I could be making money off books now, but I can't write books. I'm just tired and traumatized. So the IPOB boys were simply young people whose lives were ruined by the federal government of Nigeria. The IPOB boys went to protest, a peaceful protest, and the army turned the protest violent. Listen to me carefully again. A peaceful protest turned violent by the army. The army caused mayhem and then killed people and then arrested so many. My thing is that I was in the Port Harcourt prison in March of 2017 to February of 2018 when I was finally released. Now, there were times I was released and I came back and all that. You know what I mean? But if you put somebody in prison in 2016 and it's 2025, that's almost 10 years. In America, there's one amendment. I think it's the 13th Amendment. I'm not sure. The right to a speedy trial. Many of the IPOB boys have not had a speedy trial. Many have no bail and they're just rotten in jail. Many have died in the prison. If you see the bodies of the IPOB boys, many of them are just thin. They're hungry. They'll do anything to eat any rubbish in that prison. So I felt bad for so many of them. In the women's section, we like to employ some of the men to get us things done because the men have more privileges. In the morning, all the vendors, the hawkers, they open the gates of the prison, the hawkers enter. The woman carrying puff puff on her head, the woman with rice and stew, the woman with agbalumo, the woman, different things. So the men get to buy a lot of snacks. So in the morning, they come to the women's gates to take our money and what we need, okay, because that's how the prison is. So a lot of times, I had two, we call them house boys and house girls. I had two house boys in the prison that worked for me. Priya was a Rivers guy, bless his soul. Priya has died now. I'll tell you that in a different video. And a few of the IPOB boys will come. And most of them were Igbos. And they go, Mommy Kemi, Mommy Kemi. This is the reason why I don't like people calling me Mommy Kemi, because it's my prison name and I don't want to remember the prison. I like just my Dr. Kemi. I'm different out here. So what would happen is, you know, Mom, Kemi, what do you need? I will send them on errands to buy me this, buy me that. Sometimes I give them money to give to some warder. There were some things in that prison that I talked on TVC, but not everything. I'll tell you some now. Like, for example, I was a VIP in the prison. In the women's side, there are no VIP sections in the women's side, but I'm like the biggest inmates, and you know, my case was high profile, Ibiomi case and all that. So I don't know whether they liked Ibiomi or they hated him, but the Niger Dental Avengers, you know, they will blast him, and they didn't like Ibiomi. Those are the militants. And they were taking care of me in the prison. As in, I didn't eat prison food. What is even prison food? There's no prison food. They just give you raw stuff. Go watch the TVC interview. So what would happen would be they will send the men to me, and, you know, those house boys was like, Mommy Kemi, they said they're going to spar. What do you want? What I like about the Niger Dental Avengers is that they had money. They were the only ones that had phones in the prison. They were the only ones that had WhatsApp, and they had money. So I'll just write a list of what I want. Go to where they sell jollof fries, roast chicken. I want one roast chicken, jollof fries. I want this. I'll just write lists of shit I wanted from Spar. And then you'll see one war dress coming with 2 or 3 bags that says Spar on it. That's my stuff. All the emails are like, that's Mommy Kemi's stuff. I didn't have to pay for it. The Niger Delta Avengers paid for all my food and all my good stuff. And a lot of them had money in the prison because the politicians were the ones that funded them to blow pipelines. So once they caught, then the prison, the politicians still send them a lot of money. So that's how they were feeding me. At the end of the day, there's stories to be told. Port Harcourt prison, now I had a lot of IPOB boys. Those boys would do anything for 50 naira. Money in the prison was 50, 100 and change. So a lot of times, 50 naira will buy you what you eat for the day. It's not like we're buying food. They give us raw ingredients to cook, but you can buy the ingredients if you want. No fridge. So if you want to eat eba and vegetable, the vegetable has to be bought from somewhere. They come and take our orders. And the fish, when the fish comes, you say you want one fish, you want a little thing of vegetable, little ata, little tomato. There was no blender. You just mash everything. And you know how they do it in the old days. And then, put it in a pot, blah, blah, blah. And you cook and you eat. Some inmates will chip in together and they all share their food. Everybody has what they do, but it's like me, Indomie. I had my house girls. Chioma was one of my house, and Chidima was one of the house girls. Chidima, go and make this Indomie for me, boil egg with it, So at the end of the day, so they'll bring our fish. The fish was always oily, we had to wash it a lot because of the oil. You know what I mean by oil, right? Crude oil. There's crude oil on the fish in Port Harcourt. If you buy fish in Port Harcourt, make sure you clean it very well. So at the end of the day, the whole point of it was we had a lot of work that the IPOB boys did for us. And during Christmas, the churches will bring jollof rice in takeaways. So like 4 churches came on Christmas Day and we had 4 packs of jollof rice. Where are we going to store it? Nowhere. So you just call the IPOB boys, come and get rice. They don't get much food. While the men's side is suffering, sores all over their body, everything. When we go to clinic, we see them. So what now happened is when I left prison, the IPOB boys carried my gun. I must go to the gate, everything. I left 3 times, But the second time I left prison, the third time I left, the final leaving, I left. One day I went to the prison. I did not give any notice whatsoever. I knew what had to be done because I was an inmate there. So I took 20,000 naira. In the prison, 50 naira will feed you, 50, 100. It's good to have that. I was considered rich in the prison. I kept 5,000 naira in my Ghana must go under the bed. Okay, you're not supposed to have more than like 3,000 on you. I kept 5,000. Everything must go to the bank. At one time, Ibinabo came to see me, Fabre Sima. Ibinabo gave me 20,000. Nobody knew I had that money inside the cell. You don't tell now, So it's like, shout out to Ibinabo, by the way. She came twice to see me. So, basically, what would now happen is I now came back to the prison without any notice. I said, I'm here to visit an inmate, a particular inmate. Everybody was glad to see me, all the wardens, everybody. Anyway, I entered. You know the rules now. Drop your phone, drop everything. Take your wallet. So when I got to the visiting area, the inmate came to see me and she told me, oh, we made buns, we made this, all the different things they teach you in the prison. So I gave her money and all, Chidima. And then I went to the front. On my way out, all the IPOB boys just crowded around me. And Mommy, Mommy, thank you so much. And they saw me differently, new hairstyle, everything. I just took that 20K. It was 220K. And somebody is a bike enthusiast. I just threw it out. And everybody was just grabbing money. Then I took another 20K and I was giving. Do you know what 200 naira is in prison? It feeds you for 3 days. And that's what I did for the IPOB boys. And I'm going to start following up on what's going on with them now because they still haven't released a lot of them. Yet they rehabilitated